This is a video I wanted to make for a really long time. About a few weeks now. Have not been able to. But I'm going to pull out some things here. Give you some evidence for some claims I'm about to make. And so you cannot get mad at me and say I'm not a real DC fan or any of that crap, because I'm just about to show you every piece of evidence that I have to show you. I'm a freaking DC fan, and I'm a DC fanatic. First off, I have the 1966 Batman show, all 3 seasons on Blu-ray. Have the whole series. Batman animated series, complete series on Blu-ray. Aquaman on 4K. Lego Batman, my favorite Batman movie ever made. The objective, most accurate Batman movie ever made. There is no Batman movie more accurate than this. No lie. Batman Return of the Cape Crusaders. Teen Titans Judas Contract. The Batman the movie from the 60s. Death of Superman. And Batman Ninja. Batman and Ninja Turtles. Action Comics, 80 Years of Superman collection. Batman the Red Hood. This is the version that comes with the film. So, as you can see, I'm a DC fan. I'm a DC collector. Heck, let's show you something else I got here. What's this? It's Batman with the Hall of Justice. I have a Batman with Catwoman set here too in my pop collection, but the point is I'm not going to pull everything out. I think you get the freaking point that I am a DC fan. I am a person who loves these characters. And as someone who loves these characters, I'm against the Snyder Cut. Now, keep in mind, this is not meant to be an attack on the people who actually support the Snyder Cut. I'm happy for the people who support this and they worked hard to get this. I just think it sets a bad precedent for things to come. And I think a lot of these people don't really know what they're asking for. So let's talk about this. Again, no disrespect to Zack Snyder fans who love his work. Let's talk about Zack Snyder as a director. Zack Snyder is a director that uses techniques I don't really like. He uses a lot of slow-mo. He directed things like 300. At least I believe he directed it. He did Owls Go Hole and things like that. But let's get really more into his filmography as a comic book adaptation. One of the first comic book adaptations he directed was Watchmen. Now here's the thing about Watchmen. Watchmen is a very, very adult comic. There is nudity in it. Dr. Manhattan constantly has his dingling hanging out in the freaking comic. And it's, you know, it's pretty different. It is very hard to adapt, so I do give Zack Snyder some credit on this level. However, there are things he deliberately changed from the comic just to screw with it, you know. I don't want to say just to screw with it. That's not entirely accurate. He did change things for his own vision. And I think you can do that as long as you're, you know, not just changing things for no reason, but it did not set a good precedent. Now, when the Christopher Nolan Batman movies were coming out, they wanted Christopher Nolan and his Batman and Superman to be in the same universe. He wanted a Zack Snyder, and so they got Christopher Nolan to produce a Superman movie with Zack Snyder called Man of Steel. I just want to talk about Superman in film, and then Superman as a character, and I'll go into Batman, and then we'll kind of go into Batman vs. Superman, and then I'll talk about Justice League and where I think the problem lies with all this. Superman was appearing in serials in the 1940s, and he those were very cheesy, very dated, but those serials were for the comics in the 40s. But when you really get to Superman 1979, what is Superman 1979? Superman 1979 is Superman, but just the basic stuff that you can get off the front page. So let's open this up here. So this is a recreation of the first Superman Action Comics. But essentially, there's the Krypton blowing up. There's him realizing his powers, running fast as a train. All that is presented right here. They just looked up basically a Wikipedia article, except those didn't exist. But it's the equivalent to doing that. It is not a good Superman movie. Keep in mind, I say not a good Superman movie, not a bad film. It is a bad adaptation of Superman, but is an objectively well-made movie. There's great effects for the time. The score of that movie is fantastic. The performances are actually pretty darn great. And overall, it's just a really fun, exciting, well-made, well-paced movie. And the cinematography in it is beautiful. But there's never been a Superman movie that is objectively a good adaptation of Superman. They try, what was it, Return of Superman? That one is just a continuation of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, which again, were not accurate interpretations of Superman. So when you got to Man of Steel, there was already, from the trailers, it looked like they were taking influence for Superman All-Star, which is a fantastic storyline. Turns out they didn't. As of seeing the movie, it barely took those influences. Here's the thing. I believe Zack Snyder has never read a Superman comic or watched a Batman movie or read a Batman comic. Because the things he says in interviews and the way he adapts these characters tells me he didn't. Someone could prove me wrong, but there's enough evidence supporting otherwise that I truly believe he has not. So Man of Steel depicts Superman as an aggressive, angry character who has a hard time coming to grips with saving humanity. No, that is not Superman. Superman is Clark Kent. He grew up as Clark Kent, he was raised as Clark Kent, and later in life he started realizing his powers. He's kind of a dork, and the only reason he saves people is because he wants to, and he has the ability to do so. This isn't Spider-Man, where it's like, with great power comes great responsibility, or, I have to protect people. No. Superman saves people because he's a genuine, nice person who likes helping people. That is Superman. Superman is not an angry, pissed off guy that would go around snapping Zod's neck. You know why people hate that moment so much? Because number one, Superman is so strong that he could have pulled away his freaking face away from the people that he was shooting lasers at. He didn't even try. He snapped his neck. And it's such an uncharacteristic Superman moment that it comes across as jarring. Superman is my favorite comic book character. I don't think he's the objective best, but I think he's a character that has been around at least long enough that we should at least be able to get the fundamentals and make a good Superman adaptation. It has not happened. Man of Steel is the objective worst at doing this. It's just not Superman. I can respect it as a different take on the character. However, it's still not an objectively good movie. There's a lot of bad story beats and just bad writing and bad effects. well, actually, I wouldn't say like really bad effects, but they're not that good effects. There's an over-reliance on CG. The battle at the end is just ridiculous, goes on too long. There's so much I could complain about, but it's not the point of this video. So let's talk about Batman. So Batman's been appearing and stuff since the 60s. You know, in Adam West. That stuff, you cannot really judge on, wow, they messed up Batman. They didn't adapt him well. Well, what did you expect? It's the 60s. They were never going to do it that accurately. And that's why I can watch that and go, yeah, this is a funny adaptation now. It's stupid. It's cheesy. It's entertaining. It's not good, though. It's not Batman. However, when you get to Batman 1989, the second Batman movie, because Batman, the movie from 1966, or is it 1960? I don't remember what year that one came out. Batman 1989 is what we're talking about, though. Not a Batman movie. Batman kills people. You know why Batman doesn't kill people? Why that's part of his moral code? Because in Batman stories, Batman's moral code is one of the most important parts to the character. Because Batman is a character tormented by the death of his parents. And he believes that if he started killing people like the Joker, and let's all agree, the Joker deserves to die. In some of the first appearances of Batman, he will say, I'm going to go kill people, and then just go do it. That is the kind of character the Joker is. Obviously, over time, he's gotten a little more goofy, a little bit more silly, and he's not quite as violent as he used to be, but he's pretty darn violent still. He's killed people. But Batman does not kill people because he believes that if he killed people like the Joker, then he would kill someone like the Penguin. The Penguin, or the Catwoman. Catwoman is just a jewelry thief. He kills Catwoman. He doesn't think he can go back from killing person to person. That is the point of Batman. That is the point of his moral code. And yes, you can change his moral code and make it work in a story. Flashpoint, good example. But you know how they did that? They changed the character of Bruce Wayne to Thomas Wayne in that story. And it makes sense when you actually read that story. It's a great story. And there's an animated film that is fantastic, and you should watch it. Fantastic. I mean, just phenomenal. Great comic, too. It's just so good. So that's why that's there. So Batman killing people is not right, and it's not Batman. Now, Tim Burton never read a Batman story in his life. Later on, he did go on to read The Killing Joke, and he actually had a review on the cover of The Killing Joke at one point. I'm not even kidding about this. You can actually look this up. And Batman Returns is about the same. Then you move into Batman Forever and Batman Robin. Those tried to be more kid-friendly because the darker takes on Batman were bad. I get why Batman 89 was praised for what it was, because the 60s series of Batman was just not a good take. This was a refreshing take on a character that was not represented all that well beforehand, but at the end of the day, he still was not represented properly or correctly. It was just one step in the right direction. So let's get to the Dark Knight trilogy. Christopher Nolan basically read The Longest Halloween, The Dark Knight Returns, and like some other storylines. So you can pretty much Google search. I know this because I recognize some of the themes and ideas presented within these stories from those. You can look them up. They are good. They are actually pretty darn good adaptations of Batman. They're not great because, once again, they're just taking the most popular Batman stories. He did not do any further research into this character. And there's a lot of problems with the Dark Knight Returns, the third one in the trilogy. I believe that's the one with Bane. It's been a while since I've seen the trilogy, but there's a lot of problems with that one, but overall, it's a pretty decent step and better take of Batman. Objectively well made, great cinematography, editing, pacing, sound, music, performances. A Batman. So let's talk about Batman versus Superman. And then we'll get to Justice League, and then we'll finally get to the Zack Snyder cut. Batman versus Superman is bad. It is objectively bad. There are people who like it, and that's cool. You like it. I'm talking about both cuts of the movie. There is nothing here that is Batman or Superman. This isn't just some different take. This is made by a person who legitimately has disrespect for the source material and the people who actually like the characters. And this is proven. I will go further into that after I finish talking about what's wrong with this movie. Batman kills people. No. Superman is once again aggressive, and he is being paralleled to Jesus. First of all, we need to stop with the parallels to Jesus with Superman. Superman is not Jesus, okay? Yes, he is a God sent down to earth to do good for humanity. That is all the parallels there is. He's not freaking Jesus, though. He's the big blue Boy Scout. He's an American icon. He's what every American strives to be. Someone who stands up for what's right and stands up for their country. He's a very American character. And they really try to compare him to Jesus within this movie. And that is not what Superman is. The second point we have here is Zack Snyder's response to Batman killing people. First of all, he went in an interview talking about how many times Batman killed people in The Dark Knight. First of all, you've never watched The Dark Knight if you say this. There is a literal plot point within that movie where Batman refuses to kill the Joker and ends up causing more death in the movie for the people involved in that movie because he refuses to kill the Joker because of his moral code. So, you know where he got this? He looked up a freaking YouTube video where this person attaches real-world logic that's basically saying if Batman did this to a real-life person, they would have died. They didn't die within the context of the movie, though. Batman never killed people within the movie, within the continuity and canon within those movies. And then he went in another view, and he's like, he's just cussing out fans. I don't even want to say some of half the crap he said. It's just a lot of cussing. Like, come on, bro. Listen, you made a bad take on a character that people like. You adapted the character wrong, and now you're being called out for it, and now you're whining like a baby. Shut the hell up and grow up. So let's talk about Justice League. And I'm not talking about... Let's talk about the production of Justice League. Justice League was a hell of production. This movie is a mess of production. I can't even... They wanted to get rid of Zack Snyder. They used his daughter's suicide as a vessel to get rid of Zack Snyder. Yes, this was a crummy thing to do. Firing Zack Snyder, though, was not the right choice. I mean, sorry. I'm so frustrated that I'm just mixing up my words. It was the right choice. The way they did it is terrible. I don't believe they should have done it the way they did. I don't believe any of that. But at the end of the day, this is the equivalent to firing the director off of Solo. whether it was right or not, the version we got is the version we got. And yeah, I know people want to see his version of the movie. And maybe they should just put his version out on a home video. But honestly, they knew this movie was going to fail. They put this out. It bombed. Joss Whedon is not a good director for the Justice League, because he just made the Avengers with Justice League, which was not the right take. Because despite what people think, there is a difference between Marvel and DC characters. You cannot just take Captain America and attach him to Superman now. They're the same character. No, they're very different characters, and they're very different source materials. DC and Marvel are both good, but for very different reasons. They're not just comic book superheroes like some morons who've never picked up a comic book think. The take on these characters was bad in this movie, but Zack Snyder should have been fired. Because he made takes on characters that did not work out. Batman vs. Superman didn't work out. It didn't make the money they wanted it to. Batman vs. Superman did that, and Man of Steel did that. It should have made more money. If you like those movies, cool. You're not wrong for doing so. But let's not act like them firing Zack Snyder is unjustified. I'm glad he's getting his cut of the movie, but here's the one problem I have with it. This is a two-parter movie. What's going to happen is, if fans really like it, they're going to want that second part. Warner Brothers will probably never make it, because they know Justice League failed. The only reason they're willing to make this version is because, think about how much money they're putting into it. $30 million. Think about how much money they put into Justice League. Like $200, $300 million, somewhere in there. So you think they're going to make another movie? Hell no. Warner Brothers has been known to, yes, actually put out cuts of movies. They did it for Watchmen. They did it for Blade Runner. They've done it for so many other movies that had cuts that were supposedly hailed as better versions of the movies. But they don't make another movie after they put out that cut. Blade Runner 2049 was different, and guess what? That movie failed. And that's what's going to happen if they make Justice League 2. And you know what? If they make these versions of the movies, it's just making more of something that's not good. Of something that is legitimately harmful. If you love Batman and Superman and you like these takes on the characters, you are actually destroying these characters' legacies. Not because you like them. Because what do people think about Superman? He sucks. Why do people think Superman sucks? Because they watch crappy movies based on Superman. You know why everyone thinks Captain America and Iron Man are cool now? It's because there's good movies. Well, I don't want to say like good, decent movies based on those characters that people like, and they're good adaptations of those characters. They're not good, people. I don't like Marvel movies, but I admit they're doing a way better job at actually paying respect to the legacy of the characters. And I do not want more of this DCEU crap. Because Aquaman, Shazam, and so many other DC movies recently that have been coming out have actually been better, more interesting, fresh takes on these characters. And I respect what they've been doing. And I don't think they will ever go back to that, especially since they're moving on with the Batman coming out next year, supposedly. Who knows, that's still happening with the pandemic going on. You know, productions are getting delayed and stuff. They're moving on. And it's time we do too. I hope that there is no campaigning for Justice League 2 after this cut is released, because there's no telling if this cut will be better. I don't think it will, because Zack Snyder's vision for the other movies was not good, and we all know it wasn't. And some people like it. Cool. I'm glad you enjoy a bad take on objectively great characters. If I'm not trying to be so disrespectful and mean, but at the end of the day, these movies are not good. I don't like arguing with people about whether or not they're good, because there is no argument. It's not good. You like it? Cool. I'm glad for you. I wish I could enjoy it too, but I like these characters too much to accept these as good movies in any form or good adaptations or anything, because they're just not.